nonprofits, let's raise more money. Tune in to learn firsthand how to embark on your own journey to host a successful sponsor event. Our guest, Matt Ashley, offers actionable advice, step-by-step guidance, and invaluable tips on how to get started.
Matt had brought to our attention a few times, as a matter of fact, because he had such great success with this previous role with a very large conservation group and doing an outside of the gala type banquet event where he called it a sponsor event and invite only. I love that side of it. Exclusive, something where, hey, you don't want to miss this. Oh, you missed this year. Oh, goodness gracious. You don't want to miss the next year. And then what was really clever is that you ended up folding in conventional gala banquet, facets like, raffles, silent auction, premium silent auction, live auction, all this great stuff. And what you found was you got, high net worth individuals that really, really cared about the mission, obviously, but your biggest supporters in that particular area. How big of an area were you pulling in from with your big sponsor event, Matt?
Yeah, it was in one of our larger, fundraising events in the state that I worked within, and we pulled from probably a 100-mile radius for that event.
Okay.
So we were really trying to attract our biggest supporters in that area. And for us, I mean, it had grown, it was around 100 people for quite a while and had grown to about 150, 160. So, kind of small, close knit, like you said.
It doesn't need to be giant. It doesn't need to be a 500 person event, obviously. Yeah.
And you kind of want it that way. I mean, you want it to be intimate. You want people to be able to, not be some events, I guess some fundraising events end up being hundreds and hundreds of people or pushing 1,000 or more. And it's just, they will deter some of those, high net worth individuals that don't want that chaos and whatnot and things are going on. But if you can keep it kind of, and we held these similar events that I'm mentioning, I mean, as low as, 40 people, 30 people.
Yeah. I remember you mentioning that.
If you
I think there's a real tendency, to your point exactly, to get, what I would call crowd creep, where it starts off, well, we're going to just make it for 30. Well, let's add 2 more. Let's add 10 more. The next thing you know, you got 150 people showing up, and that's not the intent.
Yeah. You want to make it intimate and make it feel special. And, going back to what we talked about before, it can become a nice, incentive opportunity to push your fundraising throughout the rest of the year, because it's an invite only event where you decide what works best for you, but you can invite your biggest sponsors, your biggest cash donors, your largest supporters, and you could kind of maybe your biggest table buyers if you're selling tables at your event. And you could kind of use it as an extra incentive of, hey, step up to this next level and support us. And you get to come join us at this special event that it's really unique, and it's for other people that are supporting us and believe in the mission like you do.
There was an event, I was around it for like 13 years, either as a participant, or as the auctioneer. And they'd sell about 65 tables. It's an all guy event, pretty much. That way they could bring their spouse. And then they would do things like preview all the auction items, the fur coat, the trips, the stuff like that, because they did this right before. Then the wives were like, okay, I want that. You're going to buy that. And it was kind of fun. It was fun because not 100% would show up, but it would be like a group of 70, probably somewhere in that range. Some of the guys, because they could bring a plus one, some didn't, some just showed up, but it was a really cool deal. And they always have like a special guest. So your point is, it really did. It made them feel special. This was a way that they could get the spouses involved, because the spouses weren't going to go to the event. They didn't want to go to an event with a bunch of, watch boxing and smoking cigars and, having cocktails. So it was a fun deal for that. And it really, I think, became a piece of it. That was the deal. People wanted to get invited to that because then they got to have that one-on-one time, because they would always have like special guests. So you'd get that one-on-one time. So your point, it really does change the dynamic. Really, that gives it that fear of missing out. They don't want to miss it because they want to go ahead and continue that sponsorship, because that's a big part of what they get.
That event, was it held, what you're referring to, was that held right before the event? Kind of an exclusive preview of the event?
Yeah. This was a deal. They would bring all the, the live auction items and, the stuff. They would have their guests there. So it was tied there. So it was kind of a simultaneous, a day or two before.
Yeah. So I was going to make a point of, there's probably 3 different ways you can look at this. I've heard of groups having these type of events like a month out from their banquet or their main event of the year. Like you mentioned, that can be, something that happens right before the main event. Or ours was held probably 6 months. The main one I'm thinking of, the best, most long running one, was held, actually probably about 4 months after their main event. So it was held kind of a little bit separate time of year and kind of spaced things out for the group that was organizing it. So I guess you can think about that different ways of timing wise that you could place it this type of event.
Well, I have this hypothesis, theory, belief. It's kind of it's something I believe. I don't know that I don't have like some kind of scientific study to back it up, but I'd like to hear your opinion on it. A lot of times in our world, nonprofit fundraising professionals start getting hesitant about asking a large donor because they're like, well, I've already done it. Well, they're my biggest donor. And it's my belief that that's actually counterintuitive, that they should be the first people that you bring in because they're your biggest partner. They're your biggest fan. They believe in your mission the most. So it's almost, you need to ask them first. So was that kind of your take on it?
Yeah, that is my take. I think sometimes, we become overly sensitive about asking too much, but really that's our job. And that small group of people that we're referring to, that's really your key supporters of the organization. So if you treat that simply as a stewardship event, you're probably missing a fundraising opportunity and really, an opportunity. Those are the folks that have the highest capacity to give. They want to be there. They believe in your mission. They've stepped up enough in the past to receive that invite there. And I do see that as a miss. You probably don't want it just exclusively as a stewardship event, because what we had seen over time is people love this small, intimate event so much, and they love being around kind of the who's who of the supporters of the organization. A lot of them stopped coming to our main event, and this was kind of their event to support us throughout the year. So what we realized is, wow, we have our best supporters in the community in the surrounding area at this event, and we're not asking them to give, and they want to give. So we had kind of grown that giving opportunity over time within the event that I'm referring to, the one that it was the most successful.
Super smart.
There was an event here in Oklahoma City, a friend of mine, longtime fundraiser, she's recently retired. And my connection to this event goes back about 30 years. It was like the very first large event I did. It was the very first one I did. I was, 20 something, didn't know anything, come here from Sikkim, auctioneer. And all these years later, so we were talking about it, and she said, we did this event. I think they had 50 people. They raised nearly as much money at that event with 50 as what they did with their main gala. And it's a big gala. Very, very well, very well done. Raised a lot of money. That's pretty astounding. That's pretty astounding when you think about, I think they raised $500,000 with 50 people. And it kind of was mind boggling to me, but I think the reason is that everybody loved it. She got more positive feedback on that event than any other she's ever done. And so I guess did you get that same kind of response feedback from these key donors that they were like, wow, you should have done this before, or wish I'd have come here before?
Most definitely. Yeah. The per person spending and contribution in that event was way, way higher than a normal event. It's something we talked about before. You can make these events different and put things in the room that you just wouldn't normally put in your main event, whether that be items, or maybe if you run a raffle. We had talked in the past about a really high, a raffle where you're charging $1,000 a chance, $5,000 a chance.
Yeah.
You can do some things that are just really unique and give away some unique prizes. So yeah, I completely agree with what you just said.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. We've got somebody that's listening here. I know there's somebody out there that's going to listen to this, and they're going to go, I really want to do this, but I don't know where to start. What would you say were the first 3 steps that you think are like to set the foundation to make this happen?
I think the first thing you need to decide is if you are using it as an opportunity to, fundraise in the future, you got to commit to this and be willing to commit to it for, extended period of time. It's not a one year and done thing, because you're going to build that anticipation and people want to come to it. And if you're upselling them to step up to the next contribution level for your organization, they're going to expect to come to that event every year. So you got to make sure you kind of research it and make sure you have the commitment from the organization you work for or volunteer for, and you have a good support staff that are willing to commit to this for at least the first 3 years to see it through. Venue, I would say, is probably the next thing. You want to make this, I would suggest, different from your main event, something unique. Maybe you find a really unique wedding venue or something outdoors in the summer, or something that's just a different feel, more intimate feel than your main event. And we had, in our fundraising world, we had steered away from having special guests or speakers at our main events. It was sometimes just a distraction. People were there to enjoy the night and have fun. You can use an event like this where you can attract someone to come that supports your organization, that can be an attraction to your main donors, or maybe it's, the leader of your organization that comes and speaks that wouldn't traditionally speak if you have events throughout the year. You can kind of use a figurehead or something special. Maybe it's we had a live band when we had the event. We would never have that in our main fundraising events. And we had a cocktail hour kind of before for this event. So I think of some unique things, I guess, is number two of what you could add to this event to make it special and make it feel very different from your main event.
Super smart.
Gosh, number three, I think, is just identifying who you would want to invite to this event and how large do you want it to be, and to make sure you're not, it's not just, you want this to grow your revenue, grow your support, make it unique. You don't want to invite everyone. You want to set those thresholds, fairly significant, where you're having people step up to commit to the organization to get an invite to this event, or you're rewarding your big supporters. You don't want to fill up your seats, and just to have an event, I guess, if that makes sense. So kind of structure, I guess, how many people you want, and what you want the goal to be for this event to fundraise, how you want to invite people there, I guess, what you want that invite threshold to be.
Okay, so
It's okay to start small. It's
yeah,
okay to start small too, right? I mean,
I was actually going to ask that. That's what I was going to ask is, well, I was going to recap those three things. Commit. Number one, commit to this being a multi-year, something you're going to do multiple years. Make it something different from your normal fundraiser. Only invite the your high net worth, your biggest fans. And then that's what I was going to ask, is just a yes or no. If you're one of the things, maybe just start smaller.
Probably start smaller. Yeah. And you can grow and move to a different venue over time, but make sure you're filling up not filling up, but you're hitting the goal, I guess, of your first year. If you want 20 people, structure the room, pick a room accordingly. Some of those you have to commit a long time out, I guess, venues nowadays. So pick one that's achievable.
Trevor and I, a place we were just at, it was a place. How many people could probably have been there, Trevor? 50? Probably could have 50 people there, real easy.
50 people
at the villa.
Oh, sure.
So where I was going with this is just an idea. You may have somebody, especially when you're kicking this off. Don't spend any money on the room. Go find. There's going to be somebody that's got a house,
got a backyard. Maybe
you're going to have
amazing. Yeah.
Go find your biggest contributors. Get them to buy into it. They'll probably open up their home. I know a guy. This was a university fundraiser, and what he said was, he's talking to the guy raising money for a university's NIL for the to help pay the players, and he said he's talking to him. He goes, well, why don't you just come to my house? I'll set up a group and we'll probably get about 12 people and we'll see if we can raise some money. They raised $1 million with 12 people. So, you get that person who believes in your cause, wants to do that. They'll do that. Yeah. Just go have that conversation with them. I mean, they didn't have to say, hey, would you open up his home? He said, I'll open up my home. I'll bring these folks in. We'll make it a real nice, intimate thing. And you pitch them. That way they've got time to ask some questions and we'll raise some money. And I think they raised about $1 million. So,
hey, I mean, you can get you can get all sorts of creative with it. Right? I mean, you can charge by the plate. You can have special entertainment, like you said. Jason, remember during COVID, there were folks that were, live streaming concerts from like high end acts into people's homes and stuff like that. And it's like, here's an opportunity to see this band. And there's all sorts of creative ways.
I think that's really good. Yeah.
I think it's fun, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you can do, and that's where, look through your deal, see who we know. Does somebody, Matt's got somebody who's, happens to be a country music star, and he calls him up, goes, well, could you know this guy? And he goes, well, yeah, I'll just ask him right now. Yeah, he said yes. Cool, you'd be surprised how fast those things happen. Because even people like that, if there's somebody who's well known, to be able to have a small little intimate group to do something like that, they enjoy that stuff.
100%.
Versus the big production crowd. You get a guy shows up with his guitar and he plays you 2 songs and then just said, I'm gonna play you a special song, and then just has a Q&A thing, or doesn't play at all.
Right.
We were all we were all at an event. Garth Brooks, one of the biggest entertainers of all time, another generational talent, Huey Lewis was there. And all we had was those 2 guys talking, and it was everybody was on the edge of their seat.
They had everybody's attention.
You could have heard a pin drop because they just want to hear these guys talk. They weren't singing, they weren't playing, they weren't doing anything. They were just up there just kind of cutting up. And I think they probably enjoyed that kind of venue at this time in their life as much as anything. So I just think those kind of things. Now, you may not have that, but I'm just saying, I think to Matt's point, just getting somebody in who wants to come, spend some time with you, believes in the cause. You want to be them to be a believer, and they're going to come, and people want to be around people like that. So,
Yeah, I think you can create a lot of excitement and, once again, exclusivity, intimacy around an event like that. I think it's fantastic. I wish more people would do it, Matt. I just thought it was such a good idea. That's why we needed to get on here and share it for sure. It's good.
Awesome.
Really good. Yeah.
Definitely worthwhile. And like I said, it's something to commit to a long time, or be willing to commit to for a while.
Yeah.
And it'll build over time and that anticipation. And if you set those experiences like you were just sharing, Jason, those ideas, make it just unique, that excitement will build on that event. And pretty soon, hopefully your donors will be clamoring to give more, to buy that table that year, or maybe you reward your top auction spenders. They get a ticket to come. Things like that. Or you could get creative and
you could auction an invite to it off.
There you go.
Your main gala. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy ideas. If you build it, they will come, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Well, hey everybody, if you got anything out of this, please do us a favor. Give us that 5-star review, subscribe, like. Most of all, though, share it with somebody else in the nonprofit space. We really just want to get the word out so they can hear this information. If you have any questions, something came up, hit us up at podcast@hgafundraising.com. That's podcast@hgafundraising.com. We'd love to hear any questions that you have. We hope to see you next time.
Right on.
Thanks Matt,
for coming, brother. Appreciate you, man. Awesome.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.